Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Ben Hales with Transform My Poker, and today's theme is semi-bluffing. It's another favourite. I know that many of you are trying hard to become more aggressive poker players and more successful poker players, and this is one of the best single methods of becoming more aggressive, and it's a really successful move because you've got two ways of winning the hand, right? So I would encourage you all to try and increase the frequency with which you try out semi-bluffs. There's a lot less that can go wrong with this move than with other types of move, like outright bluffing. This move is really very successful, so you shouldn't feel too afraid of giving it a run out. What I find looking at many clients' hands is that they tend to play drawing hands in particular more defensively than I do. So they'll tend to release the showdown equity of the drawing hand rather than encourage their opponents to fold by playing with bets and raises. And that's really what I'm going to focus on in this video, is the post-flop semi-bluff. You can, of course, semi-bluff pre-flop with moves such as semi-bluff 3-betting, semi-bluff 4-betting pre-flop. And if you've not attempted to add hands into your 3-bet and 4-bet range pre-flop, I'd also encourage you to experiment with that. Okay, so let's talk about what a semi-bluff is. First of all, I like to start simple. Semi-bluffing is bluffing before the river card with at least some chance of making a big hand. So it's usually a drawing type of hand. It's a concept rather than a specific thing. So, you can semi-bluff to a two-pair hand. It doesn't have to be a flush or a straight or something specific. But the concept of semi-bluffing does require that you are acting before the river, because once you've reached the river card, if you're bluffing, then you've only got the chance to win through fold equity. You're not going to be able to win through showdown, and by definition, that's just bluffing. That's not semi-bluffing. Semi-bluffing requires this two-way chance of winning the hand. Now, let's talk about when it's going to be a good time to try out a semi-bluff. We've already said that drawing hands are going to be useful, but what else is there to say? As with most things in poker, it's best to be in position. It just makes life a lot easier, and there's much less risk involved when you have position. That's not to say you can't semi-bluff out of position. Some of the best moves are made from check raising the turn card on a semi-bluff and then firing at the river, whether you hit or miss. And so I don't want you to think that we're limiting semi-bluffing to being in position, but your success rate and the amount of money you'll make will be more. So when we're investing lots of money in the pot, we're generally going to prefer to do so from in position, but don't rule out doing it out of position as well. The idea behind any type of bluff is to bluff when you have lots of fold equity. And if you take one simple statement away from this video, let it be that. Semi-bluffing is a form of bluffing, and most of the money that you're going to generate does not come through making your flush. It comes through making them fold. So what we're really looking for, and this is a great thing to practice, is times when we believe our opponent or opponents, there may be more than one, is going to fold a high percentage of the time. That's where the money is. In particular, I would target tight passive players who fold too often. You'll get better at spotting them if you're on the lookout for them. So keep profiling your opponents, look for these tight passive players and exploit them with all sorts of moves including the semi-bluff. Also, target players who have arrived in a particular spot with quite a lot of hands that they're probably going to have to fold. So they might not necessarily be a tight passive player, but in a spot where a player is going to be there with a lot of fairly weak holdings, then a semi-bluff is going to work a lot more often. Any type of bluff is, because these are the spots where you've got lots of fold equity. Drawing hands, so good draws are better than bad draws. The more showdown equity you have, the less fold equity you need. So there's a kind of a balance going on between how often you need to make someone fold and how likely you are to win at showdown. Obviously, if you're going to win more than 50% of the time, then you're barely even bluffing. You've got a really good chance at showdown, so you don't mind so much if someone continues on. But if you're drawing with just, say, a 25% chance of winning, then most of your aim is in making someone fold. So what you've got to try and do is feel the balance between these two forces at work and feel how much showdown equity you have and how much non-showdown or fold equity you have. Good draws are the best hands to semi-bluff. The final point is to say, well, try and do this in heads-up pots because you're bluffing, right? And whenever you're bluffing, you want to tend to do so against one opponent because that's going to maximize your success rate. Having said that, it's not impossible to try this move in multi-way pots, and again, stick to good draws where you've got lots of showdown equity, because in a multi-way pot you're not going to make your opponent fold as often, so the balance is tilted more towards showdown, good showdown hands, and therefore, if you're going to do this in a multi-way pot, then make sure you've got a reasonably good quality draw. Okay, so our final slide is just going to make a few points about how we can semi-bluff more frequently. So we talked about some of the good spots to semi-bluff, and I've mentioned already that you shouldn't ignore the pre-flop opportunities to play some weaker hands aggressively. But thinking about playing on the flop and the turn, look at how you play the drawing hands that you get at the moment. Make sure you're comfortable with what you're doing. Look for spots where you could bet or raise instead of playing them defensively. Think about which play is going to be better. It can be something you can look at mathematically. Think about how likely you are to make your opponent fold. The ones where the answer to that is a high number, you should be betting and raising, and the ones where you don't think you're going to make them fold very often tend to be the ones where you should either draw defensively or even fold the hand. Okay, so if you're looking at how you're playing your drawing hands and perhaps looking to increase your aggression level and semi-bluff more often. One final point on the end: when you play aggressively post-flop, check raising and raising without necessarily a great hand, then you're giving balance to your aggressive plays when you have got a great hand, and that's a good thing. It keeps your opponents guessing, and it means that they'll make more mistakes. So they'll be calling when you have got good hands, and they'll be folding when you're perhaps bluffing, and it's difficult for them to know which is which. So that balance makes you a better poker player. And you know what? I think I've managed to get through an entire video without making a stupid joke. So I'm going to give myself a little pat on the back there. Well done, Ben. If you enjoyed this video, please go out and semi-bluff to your heart's content. Do some Facebook liking, add the comments and questions below, and I will try and get back to you. My name's Ben Hales with Transform My Poker. Thanks for listening.